Jay, this is actually, I did not realize until we started talking about that. This feud, Dust Up, that we're talking about today, you have a close personal ties to one of the ladies who was dusting it up. She's really the victim. We are here to talk to you about the dust up between Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. And where did you grow up playing hockey?
I didn't grow up playing hockey. I grew up in Stoneham, Massachusetts, which is where Nancy is from, baby. Nancy was in
Kerrigan is from Stoner.
Stoneham, bro.
Stoneham.
You say Stoneham in Mass. You say Stoneham. You don't say Stoneham. You say Stoneham. My sister was the same year as Nancy Kerrigan at Stoneham High.
Were they buddies?
No, because Nancy Kerrigan was never there. She's out becoming an Olympic medalist.
Oh, that's interesting. I actually was just having a conversation with a dad whose daughter requested, because this is tricky when you want to pull your kids from one school to another school. I'm not sure if anyone's ever had that happen to them. Did you stay in the same school the entire time pretty much?
Where, growing up as a kid?
Yeah, growing up.
Yeah, in my town, you went to like whatever elementary school is close to you, then the middle school, then the high school.
We pulled my daughter after 5th grade because we got in a little dust up with the principal.
We or you, Al?
My wife is ready. She's got phasers on kill and all.
Wait, before we go further, how about welcome back to the Dust Up, Al?
No. We're jumping it. We get it. They know what the show is.
I know, but I like to do it. It's nice.
Welcome to the Dust Up, folks, where we talk about famous fights, feuds, and melees. I'm Al Madrigal, joined by, of course, Jay Larson, who just celebrated a birthday. And Jay and I are going to talk about a high-quality dust-up. Probably one of the... It was definitely a moment of cultural fascination at the time. It was one of maybe the biggest scandals in sports history.
100%. Could you imagine if social media was around when this happened?
So we're talking about, like, this is 1994 this went down, if you're not around at that time paying attention to this thing. There was a movie about this afterwards by Craig Gillespie starring Paul Walter Hauser and Margot Robbie. Allison Janney played her mother. And this, to be a movie-worthy dust-up, has to be pretty damn serious. So let's get back to just your sister smoking butts with Nancy Kerrigan. No, she was never around. The story I was going to tell is this dad I know wants to pull his daughter out. His daughter requested getting pulled out of school so she could be an Olympic horseback rider, or she wants to compete in the Olympics. And the fancy school that she goes to in Pasadena won't allow her to take time off for that. So she's so committed to the sport that she wants to bail. And I just remember pulling my daughter from 5th grade to go to a new 6th grade in a new school after a little bit of beef. And my daughter went kicking and screaming. But this girl is so committed to her sport that she's initiating the transfer. So that's these Nancy Kerrigan types. When you have a kid that is just so on it, they're not showing up at school. But technically, Nancy Kerrigan was in your sister's class.
Yes, but don't forget, too, like, to be an Olympic athlete, you have to have that kind of drive. Like, you have to want... It's not like
you're being one of those Chinese training programs since you're a young kid.
Yeah, you get a shot once every 4 years. It's not like you can just, like, oh, yeah, you become a professional athlete and you play all year round. Like, this is it, man. Once every 4 years, you get a shot. And that window is, like, 2 Olympics, maybe.
So your sister never saw her? She never came in for classes? Are you drinking an old-fashioned right now?
Yeah, no, just an iced tea. I do lemon at home. I get the lemons at home. No, she wouldn't. There was no way. Like, once you get to high school, I mean, in the 94, Oksana Bayul wins the gold medal, right? She's 16 years old when she wins that gold medal.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, you are young. And Nancy Kerrigan, I think, was like 25 when she won. That was it.
When she would come to school, everybody, it's like going to school with Bronny James or something. When you're Nancy Kerrigan up in Stoneham, you're like, hey, Nancy, hey, Nancy, how's it going? I'm really looking forward to you being in the Olympics, Nancy. You think you got a shot?
Listen, first of all, you better settle down and show some goddamn respect. She's a 2-time Olympic medalist for this country. Second of all, she didn't. In '91, it was when Harding beat Nancy in the nationals. My sister probably graduated high school, I would think, in like, I don't know, maybe '89. So in high school, Nancy's just training. She doesn't even know she's going to get to the Olympics at that point. She's a high school kid who's like giving up her entire high school life to go try to be an Olympian, you know? That's hardcore, man.
No, it is. It is. And figure skating, for me, I couldn't turn it off fast enough. I mean, there are certain sports that I've just never been. Even curling, I'd be more fascinated by. And with the guys with the brooms running down the thing. Yeah, I would be more interested in seeing how that shit works because it's like shuffleboard, which I can kind of like identify with. That bar game. I love that. Cornmeal.
Yeah,
I love that. But so I kind of get curling. Even when they're riding around, when they're doing a thing where they have to snowshoe and then they shoot.
Yeah, that is a crazy sport to me. I love it. It's cross-country skiing with then gun shooting.
Yes. I don't know
what the whole point is, right?
All I know is I'll watch that shit. I'll watch snowboarding. I will watch downhill skiing. I will watch them jump. But yeah. That's just called the biathlon?
Yeah, you know what the whole point of that sport is like your heart rate is going so hard from cross-country skiing, and then you have to calm everything down and be able to snipe. That's the whole partnership between those two events.
Yeah, that's super cool. Biathlon, super fucking cool. I like it. I think I'd be good at that, just calming myself down after being all heated. But I'm telling you, the thing with the ribbons, whatever that is called, and gymnastics. What's that? The floor? I'd even watch gymnastics. I'm just saying, like, my least favorite sport might be figure skating. Dressage is ridiculous to me. Ribbon dance, dressage, ice skating.
Dressage? What is that?
Dressage is when they make the horses dance.
Oh, yeah. What about synchronized swimming?
It seems ridiculous. The only thing that was funny about synchronized swimming was that Martin Short sketch from Saturday Night Live that he did a long time ago. I'm not a very strong swimmer.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't. And to each his own. If you're a big figure skating or ice skating fan, Blades of Glory was hilarious.
And who's in it? Nancy Kerrigan's in that movie.
Nancy Kerrigan is in Blades of Glory. So let's talk about just...
Well, can I just say this?
You have an agenda.
Well, I want to say, like, for me, figure skating, I knew everything that was going on that year because our whole town was following it. You know what I mean? Katarina Witt, Oksana Bayul, there was like, and then we kind of like followed it for like when 98 came around, we were watching the Olympics because there were certain people like figure skating because you knew. And like I said, my high school girlfriend was a figure skater, so I would go watch her practice at the rink that Nancy Kerrigan used to train at. Like figure skating became a thing in our town. You know what I mean? Like people figure skated because Nancy Kerrigan was from there.
Sure. Everybody was trying to be the next Nancy Kerrigan. Now, so let's talk about your high school girlfriend. How long did you date her for?
7 years on and off.
What? When did you start dating?
We started dating when I was a sophomore, and we stopped dating when I was a junior in college.
Oh my God, that's such a long time. We were kind of critical of my son taking a long distance relationship into college. Did you guys go to the same college?
Nah, different college. She went to a school that I wanted to go to, but I didn't get in. You know what I mean? I just wasn't bright enough, Al.
Oh, that's right. That's fine. Look at you now. Haha. Who had the last laugh? Sitting behind in front of a bunch of tape. So you didn't go to the same college. Where did she go?
She went to school in Rhode Island, Providence College.
And then what is she doing now?
I have no idea.
You haven't caught up with her?
Nope.
You didn't look.
Irony, though, on the first date with my ex-wife, we were talking about my ex-wife went to college with her.
No way.
Yeah. When, like, on our first date, we're driving, and she goes, wait, where are you from again? I'm like, oh, this, Massachusetts. She goes, yeah, what town? I go, this little town, Stoneham. She goes, I went to college with a girl from Stoneham. And I'm just like sitting there like, oh no. And she, boom, calls her name out. And I was like, she goes, do you know her? I'm like, yeah, I dated her for 7 years.
That's right. And you were being faithful to her the entire time you were in college, junior year, no breakups?
Of course. I was faithful the whole time.
That's amazing.
No, Al, I was a high school kid and then a college kid that didn't know what was going on. It was not faithful. It was horrible. There was breakups. There was cheating. It was not good. You know what I mean? What do you want?
Anyhow, you dated a figure skater and your town was crazy for Nancy Kerrigan because she's a local hero. And then Tonya Harding, they came from such different backgrounds. Harding is known for her athleticism.
Yep.
She's also known for becoming the first American woman to complete a triple axel in a competition, showcasing her power and technical skills. Kerrigan, though, was celebrated for her grace and artistry. So not only are they from completely different backgrounds, Nancy Kerrigan is from this fancy pants Stoneham.
No, that's the thing. We're not a fancy pants, but that's the thing is like, I will say I'm a Nancy fan for sure. But I do sympathize very much with Tonya Harding in this whole thing. Tonya Harding was poor. Nancy grew up middle class family. She had a strong family around her. Parents believed in her. Parents were working. Just like I saw an interview with Tonya Harding's mom, and she's like, I worked all the time to afford this for her. So did Nancy's parents. You know what I mean? They were grinding too, but they were together. They had probably, a better way to go about it than Tonya, They weren't struggling the way Tonya was poor. Nancy came from middle class. Nancy Kerrigan wasn't like going to some bougie high school over in Pasadena. You know what I mean?
Time Magazine, this is from our producer, Ben. Time Magazine said Harding was the bead of raw sweat in a field of dainty perspirers, a scrappy girl from trailer parks. She would collect cans to pay for ice time for practice. So that's who we're talking about. This scrappy girl from trailer parks collecting aluminum cans for the deposits to pay for ice time. And then Nancy was just, again, I think it was her stylistically, she was prettier. She was a very pretty girl who was tall and thin and wasn't that sort of rough, had that rough exterior that Nancy Tonya Harding had. She was like that gum chewing, like Amy Poehler character with like huge bangs, that hair, whatever they call it. Her father gave her first gun at 22 when she was 5 years old and taught her how to hunt, fish, and fix a transmission. Those are 3 things that I don't know how to do. And as a man, and she was figuring that shit out when she was a 5-year-old. Parents' marriage fell apart.
The sad thing is, I think Tonya's dad was probably like really a good figure and like foundation in her life until her mom got married 6 times, bro. And Tonya's dad was like the 5th.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I do think, like, as we get into this more than when we break this down, that Tonya was was a victim in her own way, and she just never had a place to like voice or kind of get that out of her system.
I know you've talked about this. You've been married once.
Yeah,
and maybe you'll get married twice. Maybe.
I hope so.
But I will safely say I am married for a long time, and there's not going to be a twice. There's certainly not going to be a third time. But could you imagine 5 and 6? Like, who gets married to a woman that that's been married 4 times and thinks it's going to work out?
You are rolling the dice. You're like, fuck.
Like, first of all, remember what they did with Seinfeld's character too? Like, I am so not marrying anybody with a problematic teenager. Like, I'm looking for reasons to bail out. It's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
And the warning signs that come along with I've been married 5 times are like unsurmountable. Like, I would meet that person on the first date if I didn't get that information before. Let's say we're matching up now over like, some sort of app.
Yeah.
And I match up and I go, oh, she goes, I just want you to know that I've been married 5 times. And I'd go, and check please. I don't even know if I'd say check please. I would just fucking get up and just walk away.
Or start laughing.
Someone who's been married 5 times out doesn't lead off with like, I just want to let you know I've been married. You'll find that shit out down the road and like, yeah, I've been married 5 times. The fuck you gonna do about it? Shut up. That's how you find out.
Well, those are the type of characters that Nancy's having to deal with her entire life.
Tonya.
I keep saying Nancy because Nancy is such like we talked about this too. It's like Tonya and Nancy. You're not even hearing these names anymore. Like, these are not names you even hear. You named your kids cool names. Like, I named my kids, these family names, and no one's naming their kid Nancy. If you saw Nancy in a preschool or a Frank or a Steve or a John, you don't even see Johns anymore.
No. I'll tell you right now, if a Nancy was in your preschool, that kid comes to school in a wheelchair. They're already 85 years old. You know what I mean? Like, just no one's Nancy anymore.
All right, well, let's get into so these two are competing. Just to back you up, if you're unfamiliar with figure skating like I am, this is the one thing I do know, that they're competing their entire, there's definitely a rivalry that was ongoing for the two of them. They're vying for national and international titles as well as spots on the Olympic team. So the rivalry then, let's get into the attack. I'm just going to run people through that.
Well, hold on. That's something to be said is like, you talk to pro golfers like Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth would be like, yeah, I used to compete against all these guys when we were 12 and 13. They like Nancy and Tonya were roommates at 11, like at competitions. You know what I mean? And Nancy never said there was any kind of she's like, there was no real rivalry. We were just like both trying to win. She's like, we were friends, but there wasn't like, it wasn't like Magic and Bird where like one time, one the other. They just kind of, it wasn't till Tonya Harding beat Nancy at 91 at nationals, you know what I mean? At U.S. nationals, that all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, there might be a thing here. Or rather maybe until, we'll get into it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So this rivalry takes a dark turn on January 6th. What is it about that date? When Kerrigan was attacked by a man later identified as Shane Stant, who struck her right knee with a telescopic baton. The attack occurred after a practice session at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Detroit. That's a rough city. That's where a lot of attacks happen. An event that served...
Don't do Detroit. Don't take Detroit down with Tonya's attack.
In Detroit. Did I ever tell you that story?
What?
When I choked that guy in that pool hall in Detroit?
Yeah. First of all, any friend that you might have, listeners out there, who in a casual conversation go, hey, I ever tell you about that time I choked a guy out in a pool hall in Detroit? They have a checkered past.
How can I? It's like we married 5 times. So
how did you choke a guy out in Detroit?
We're on a tour doing stand-up, and I think this is like 2007. I'm out on the road a lot. That's how I primarily made a living for the family. And I get this High Times comedy tour gig. It's me, Jay Phillips, and Doug Benson. Jay Phillips goes up. I go up. Doug Benson goes up. That's the show. That's the tour. And I don't even have any jokes about pot. I just appear to be stoned all the time. And so, hey, man. So I go up, and the worst crowd ever. And we're in a nightclub with a pool hall on the side of it. And then this guy, I'm finishing up my act, and everyone's talking. It's a horrible crowd. And I go, hey, man, I just want to finish. I got 5 more minutes to do. and then I'm just going to get the fuck out of here. I go, you can just shut the fuck up. That'd be great. And he goes, just do your jokes, man, and continues to talk to his friend. So I go, all right, listen, I told you, man, that there's going to be a problem if you don't shut the fuck up. And he goes, just do. He waves me off. And I go, all right, it's fucking your funeral. I'm fucking you up. So I did 5 minutes, finished, put the mic in the microphone, and then grabbed the dude, dragged him into the adjacent pool hall, and choked the fuck out of him until the bouncers pulled me off of him.
Ow!
No, I warned him what was going to happen. I told him if he didn't shut the fuck up, I was going to come down there and I was going to kick his ass. I said it. I said,
I know, but no one's going to believe you.
Well, he should have.
Man.
I told
You're the Tonya Harding in this. You're the Tonya Harding between me and you.
All right. Well, anyway, let's get back to there. So the attack occurred in Detroit, where all attacks occur, at an event that served as a qualifier for the Winter Olympics that year. So this is a big deal. This is a Winter Olympics qualifier. Kerrigan's injury forced her to withdraw from the competition, casting doubt on her Olympic prospects.
Now, let's take something into consideration, okay? It never before had been that the only reason that this attack was planned is because in 92, was it 92? Yeah, in 92, Nancy won the bronze medal, right? And in 91, Tonya Harding won the U.S. Nationals, so she was the best skater for the U.S. In 92, she finished 4th at the Olympics. Nancy got 3rd, so Nancy Kerrigan became the spokesperson. And I think Tonya Harding and her group were like, yo, we need to get her out of this because you're not going to win any money if you lose to her.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
No, of course. You got to hit her over the knee with the expandable baton thing.
Isn't that crazy, though? Imagine people used to always make fun of Nancy Kerrigan to me because I was from Stoneham. And they'd be like, oh, why me? Remember when she got hit? She's like, why me? Why? And I was like, dude, if you were at work one day and someone came and took your leg out, you'd be like, why me? Why not fucking Paul, who got drunk at the Christmas party and pissed all over the Toys for Tots shit? You know what I mean? Like,
why really makes sense. Why me? Because she had dedicated her life to this ridiculous sport. Yeah. And she missed all high school. She didn't even get to hang out with your sister. She could have been in high school, chilling, smoking butts behind the tree, and drinking beers with your sister, who was a bad influence. Your sister partied hard in high school, didn't she?
My sister was in the chorus and drama. I remember my sister walking around before performances in school for chorus, and she was a drama queen. She's like, I need my tea with honey. Everyone, I need my tea with honey, to get her throat ready and shit.
Oh, my God. But she was drunk most of the time, right?
Yeah, she was a giant alcoholic in high school.
So anyway, Nancy really misses hanging out with your sister. That's where the why me comes from. It soon emerges that the attack was planned by Jeff Gillooly, Harding's ex-husband, along with Harding's bodyguard, Sean Eckhart. These two goons, Google image both those dudes, Jeff Gillooly, Sean Eckhart, and 2 other men, Shane Stanton and Derek Smith. The motive was clearly to eliminate Kerrigan from the competition and securing Harding's place in the Olympic team, which in fact, Harding then in 1994 goes on to win the gold at the U.S. Championship, guaranteeing her a spot in the Olympics, right? Kerrigan is then given this sympathy spot since she was too hurt to perform. And then finally, on January 12th, 4 days later, Eckhart confesses, implicating Harding, Gillooly, and 2 of Eckhart's friends. So now everybody's arrested. And again, this is one of the biggest scandals of the time, probably because it injected this controversy and this drama into a sport that no one gives a shit about in the first place.
Yeah, not to mention you're trying to physically harm someone. So that they had talked about killing her. They had talked about cutting her Achilles tendon. They were like, we needed to be her landing foot, like what she's going to land on, because that has the best chance of taking her out. You know what I mean? That is just insanity out. Could you imagine if like I had guys plotting to take out your vocal cords so that you couldn't do a stand-up competition against me like on Last Comic Standing?
Yeah, no, it'd be insane. People try to, has anyone tried to get in your head and fuck with you before a showcase set or anything like that?
The only big time showcase that I ever did was, actually I did two. When I did Montreal, I was just backstage having a blast, and other people were tense because they knew what a big opportunity it was. And I was just like, whatever. You know, I was 3 years into comedy. I didn't know
People
what.
were talking shit to other people in the showcase?
No, that's what I'm saying. Everyone else was just like tense and nervous, and I was just so loose because I didn't really understand what it was. I was 3 years into comedy doing New Faces. And then I did Last Comic, and there people were kind of like, I remember one comedian who I don't love was just like kind of rude to me and off-putting. And I was like, is this dude effing with me? And I ended up not moving on. He did, but whatever. I'll tell you off camera who that is.
In San Francisco, we started at the San Francisco comedy competition. They did one up in Seattle. It was the same guy. And there was a little bit of that. Everyone was friendly, but as it got like closer to the end in the semifinals, I think it definitely became a little cutthroat. I remember, and
that Seattle, isn't that Seattle one like 3 weeks long?
They both are. They last for way too long. You go on the road, you do a bunch of road gigs, and you end up. It used to be a big deal in San Francisco. Now I think it just doesn't matter at all, even though they might still be doing it. I lied to get into the first one. I had been doing comedy 6 months, and I told them I was a writer on the Tick.
What?
And I got in, and I made it to the semifinals right away after doing comedy 6 months. And I was like, I made a great time. And then they gave us, when we found out we were in the semifinals, it was in Reno, Nevada. And they gave us each $500 cash in a casino. And all 10 comedians in the semifinals immediately went to strip clubs. All of us immediately just went to strip clubs. And I remember, God, do you remember a comedian named Floyd J. Phillips? The J is for genius?
No.
Oh, dude, he was so funny. And I think he passed. And rest in peace, Floyd J. Phillips. The J is for genius. And very funny black comic. I think Danny Bevins was in that. I think Augie Smith was in that.
Australia?
No, they're just Augie Smith. And I think Paige Hurwitz was in that. She's gone on to be a great producer, run Wanda Sykes' company. So we all get this money in Reno. And then me and all the comics go to a strip club. And there was a hot stripper that goes up. And you know how people throw all the money on stage, the dollar bills? And she had to get a little rake or a broom and take care of all the dollar bills that were up there. And then the next woman that came up on stage was a bigger stripper, and at the end of her act was closing in. She didn't make any money at all. So I took out like my last $3 and I put it on stage as like a little courtesy pity tip for the lady. The other lady had a rake.
Yeah.
She had a broom out for the dollars.
Trash bag.
She's got a team of people that come in, and then the woman spins around when she threes my $3. Huge stripper. I mean, she was like probably $180, 200 pounds. And she goes, for $3, you get the treatment. And I go, I don't want the treatment. No, thank you. And she grabbed my face and she lowered it. She grabbed it forcefully, put it on the stage, and just was lowering up and down her giant ass on my face. And all the comics were just on the floor laughing because all you could hear me saying was going, I want the treatment. Please, no, I don't want this work. I don't want the treatment. Like that. Anyway. And then when we went on from there, you went on to these other gigs that were bigger, and people really did try to fuck with you. When I first auditioned for shows in LA as a Latino comedian, other Latino comics would try to mess with me then.
You're on their turf, bro.
I know, it's crazy. And then, did I ever tell you my Michael Strahan story?
No. You choke him out, fucking bull hall?
I talk some smack to him. Listen, I go to audition for No Ordinary Family. It's Michael Chiklis' ABC show where he had superpowers.
Okay.
And it's for the friend. I'm like, the book I write should be called Life as a TV Sidekick, because I'm always the friend.
Yeah.
So ethnic friend. And the audition is me, Michael Strahan, and a Chinese guy. So I look at Michael Strahan. Romney Malcolm, my buddy from night school, ended up getting it. But I look at Michael Strahan and I look at this Chinese guy and I'm like, they just want to color this friend up. They don't care who it is. And I go, oh, this is my one chance to talk some shit to Michael Strahan. So I walk up to Michael Strahan and I go, hey, let me get this straight. You are on the Fox Sunday football show. You are the Subway spokesperson. You won the Super Bowl and spent 10 years in the NFL. And now you're coming into my house. I go, I'm ethnic friend. This is what I do. Got it? Capiche? And I looked at him, I stared at him. He knew exactly what was happening and just hit the floor laughing, thought it was hilarious. And then I just sat back down. I was looking at my script and he came over to talk shit to me. And he's like, well, what's the matter? Don't know your lines? Don't know your lines? Huh? You got this memorized? Huh? You gonna go in there and choke? And I was like, I started cracking up and I like fist bumped him. But I think like that's obviously was a joke.
Yeah.
But it's competitive when you're getting these parts. It's like the same thing. I've worked and what I empathize with is working your whole life towards this goal.
Yeah, but guess what? Even us, Al, you started with comedy when you were in your 20s. These girls, these women are starting when they're 8.
Younger.
Look at Venus and Serena, like they started at a young age where you're like on the track for like, this could be your living. You know what I mean? You're goofing off in French school, a little different.
All right. Well, they were talking about, they didn't want to just rack her knee or cut her Achilles or anything. They were talking about killing her.
Yeah, I know. I know. And I hate this thing they always say about Tonya. She's like a fierce competitor. Like no one is taking their whole life towards something and not be a fierce competitor. Every single person in the Olympics is a fierce competitor. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. It's a lifetime of work that goes away. And that's, I think, why Nancy was screaming, why me, why me, why me? What are the repercussions here? I mean, what happens to Tonya? Tonya becomes this joke. Tonya goes on to like be in the surreal life. Like, where is Tonya now? Like, what is Tonya doing? What is Nancy doing?
Well, let's think a couple things. First of all, Nancy Kerrigan admitted that she went through a eating disorder and anxiety disorder after that whole thing happened to her. Do you understand? Every time she stepped on the ice, she probably had PTSD. She had to go do the Olympics with the knowledge that someone tried to attack her while she finished her practicing. If you got attacked on stage, Al, as a stand-up comedian, you don't think for a long time, every time you got up on stage afterwards, that you had this idea that, remember Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard? Remember Whitney? She kept...
I have been attacked on stage.
Of course.
And
you can't hear another story about how you fought a guy because you couldn't fucking rein it in a little bit. I want to say...
Also, I can't also kick it over how you say PTSD. Say it one more time.
PTSD. Yeah, Balbivdevo. Listen to me. I think that not only was Tonya Harding very misunderstood because she had a horrible upbringing. Dude, she started dating Jeff Gillooly when she was 16 years old. Al, 16. She was married to him at 19. That's against the law today. That would not be allowed. I don't know what their age difference is, but definitely that dude's older than her.
She went on to release a sex tape in 1994 with Gillooly. Remember, she's one of the first people to do celebrity boxing.
Yep.
She appeared in a low-budget movie in 1996 as an action film called Breakaway. She was on a Tyson undercard, if you can believe that. And then she became a commentator for True TV. Remember with Chelsea and Mary Walsh used to do that. She's just scrapping for success and sort of fame anywhere they can find it, where I feel like Nancy has been able to completely go away.
Well, Nancy didn't want, first of all, Nancy didn't. I also want to say Nancy got completely misunderstood. First of all, she turned in a phenomenal performance for the 94 Olympics. Okay? She barely missed gold. But you know what the criticism on Nancy was? That she was too rigid. She would look like she was doing chores while she was out there. And my defense is like, the poor woman was attacked. She just wanted to be a figure skater. She got attacked. All of a sudden, she got thrown in and has to defend herself. And she's like, I'm just a skater. Oksana Bayul comes in, more charismatic, more lively, loving what she does, because she's what? She hasn't been attacked, bro. I mean, yeah. Did you hear what I'm saying? Do you have it? Huh?
I mean, I think it's I don't know if there's that much PTSD from getting attacked like that. I don't know.
Really? Really?
I really
think someone has PTSD about doing their job and getting attacked. You're crazy. You're out of your mind.
Maybe she does. I just they hit her knee. How long did it take her to recover?
They hit her thigh. They didn't get her knee. They were going for her knee, which brings me to this other point. Imagine if you got hired. This guy was a total amateur. $6,500 to risk your entire life. Amateur. Do you know how nervous that guy must have been going to attack Nancy Kerrigan? Like, oh, fuck, I got to hit her. How hard do I hit her? Have you ever, actually, you've tried to hurt a lot of people. Not me. I've never hit anybody. But it's got to be nerve-wracking, that guy, when he went together. He got her in the thigh. She couldn't compete. She recovered and got back for the Olympics, which was amazing, a month later. But I think she probably went through a lot. Here is a curveball I'd like to throw at you.
Please.
Nancy Kerrigan won the bronze medal at the 92 Olympics. And then at the 94 Olympics, she won the silver. Is there anything that stands out to you about what I just said?
That she never won the gold.
They're 2 years apart, Al.
That's the Winter Olympics. It used to be every 2 years apart.
No, it was always every 4 years apart. They changed it that year so that it would go summer, 2 years later winter, 2 years later summer. It used to be they were both at the same time. So you wait. So they switched it. That was the first time they switched it. So they were never 2 years apart. And my question is, if it was supposed to be in 96 instead of 94, would this ever have happened? Probably not.
That's a good point. But I do think that the Winter Olympics were every 2 years apart.
They weren't. They were 4 years apart, always.
Always?
Always. The Olympics were always 4 years apart. And then
I hope I preface this at the very beginning. I really don't give a shit about the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, I know. You don't. I get it. But, we're talking about it, so get into it. What I'm saying is, if they never made that switch, this probably never would have happened. Because it would have been 4 years from that. Who knows what could have happened? Or maybe it would have happened. I just think my takeaway is, I don't think Tonya Harding came from a really shitty situation, got wrapped up with a really shitty dude because she had no male,
surrounded by shitty people,
and had a shitty mom. And I think Nancy had a very stable upbringing with people that cared about her, and then gets attacked, gets shined in the spotlight of a victim, which she never wanted to be a victim. She just wanted to go skate. And then, it's after she's at that Disney parade talking about how she hates it. She's annoyed at Oksana Bayul because Oksana Bayul gets the gold, and then she's putting makeup on, and Nancy gets picked up on mic being like, oh, Jesus, she's putting her makeup on. She's just going to cry again. Because Nancy wasn't like this, oh, let me be perfect kind of chick. She was a regular blue-collar person, too. It just so happened that Tonya was trash, bro.
Yeah, she out blue-collared her.
She wasn't even blue-collar. She was gray-collar. She was,
Blue-collar.
Blue-collar, bro.
Stained collar. Just gross.
Anyway, I think the whole thing is just horrible. And then, do you remember in the 94 Olympics, when Tonya Harding was going to skate, her shoelace broke, and she stopped her performance and was crying on the ice and had to They let her relace and go again. Oh, that poor girl, man. Her whole life was just like crumbling around her. And we all
was a big deal in this country because that's when they used to do all of the on ice shit. It was Disney on Ice. You know, they used to take your figure skaters and do all these national tours. They were like the Harlem Globetrotters. They'd go around the country and do these skating events. Anyway, that's, I think, all we got. I mean,
here's the other thing. The other thing with Tonya is she just never, this wasn't like Tonya Harding couldn't have, her practice rink was in a mall where people could watch her. You know what I mean? She could not afford a lot. And after she qualified for nationals and won, and Nancy couldn't compete in them because she got clubbed, Tonya Harding goes, I don't think anyone's going to really consider me the champ. We're going to have to wait till we go head to head and I'm going to whip her butt. She didn't have any understanding of what's appropriate to say when. You don't say that when someone just got fucking clubbed and then we find out it was by your team. You know what I mean? You should just say like, like, I'm so honored to win. I wish that Nancy was able to compete because it would have been, she just didn't have that. She grew up she just didn't have that.
No, Tonya never, ever outright apologized.
She did on that like James Brown interview that we watched, but it wasn't even like it's not going to matter. Would you accept that apology? I wouldn't accept it. I would be like, sorry, I'm just not, I don't have it in me to forgive you. I can't forgive you because I wouldn't be able to. That's a tough one to do. You know what I mean?
Ultimately, the whole event drew more attention to figure skating. It was probably just about to start to wane in popularity.
According to you, it waned years ago.
Yeah, but are people into that now? I think that's the reason why, like the Olympic numbers, even though NBC spends a ton of money on the Olympics and bidding for them, I just don't see them being popular or good investment in TV money. It just seems like, who cares? And it just seems like it's so difficult, especially when the time zones are all messed up and you're trying to watch or keep track of something that's going on in Brazil, and there's a big time lag and you're watching something well after the fact when you already know who won on your phone. It's like, who cares? So I think for Olympics to, definitely in the United States, to become more popular, they're just going to have to be aired in real time, during times when people can actually watch them. So it makes sense for Olympics to be held in the United States on a regular basis.
The Olympics are coming to LA in what year are they going to be here? It's 2024, 2026, I think they're here. It's Summer Olympics.
We get the World Cup in 2026.
The Olympics are here. I'm pretty sure it's either the 2028, Travis is saying. So they're coming in 2028. My buddy's on the Olympic committee. He's been working on the Olympics so far. I think he's already been on it for 5 years. He will have worked on it for 9 years by the time they get here.
No way. And then what city?
LA, bro.
And they're using, they'll probably do a bunch of stuff near the Rose Bowl too. That'll be fun.
They're going to use the Rose Bowl. They're going to go all the way down to like Carson. The one thing it does do is they bring in so much ad money because it is still it's a thing that gets watched in every country. You know what I mean? Like the NBA finals aren't getting watched in Portugal. You know what I mean? It's a huge event. So
do you hear about all the banging that's going on down at that Olympic Village?
Yeah, a lot of banging.
I read a movie about two dudes who put on sweatsuits and try to infiltrate the Olympic Village and then lie themselves into the Olympics, like by accident. Like somebody gets hurt into a process of elimination and they're like, they need to actually compete.
Why do you think it's such a bang fest in there? What's your guess?
They all are premier athletes and they want to, I think they appreciate each other's athleticism.
Yeah.
And they're also, it's like a summer camp for hot athletes.
Yeah. And they're just there. There's nowhere to go. It's just like them. And they're like, oh, you're here. I'm here. Fucking go. And they all have that competitive spirit that we talk about. They've all been doing this for so many years. There's no one else that can relate to them in that way. Dude, I'm on dating apps, or was I was on dating apps, when I would see women that were like Pilates instructor, I'm like, nope. They're going to be like, you guy, you can't keep up, okay?
You don't think we can go in there, put on some sweatsuits and say, what can we do? Shot putters?
I was a Division II college athlete, Al. Of course I could, right?
What did you play?
Baseball, D2, baby. St. Anselm, New Hampshire.
Well, no one tried to hit you with a bat?
No, I got thrown at. So after all this, do you have any sympathy for Tonya Harding?
A little bit, because she was born into a horrible situation, horrible role models, horrible boyfriend. She's obviously convinced to do this by scumbags. So, there's no excuse for allowing this to happen. She should have stopped it. She should have come forward. Her life would have changed had she warned her and said these, bad actors are trying to do this whole thing. So that could have happened.
Yeah, she just didn't have it, the poor girl.
Yeah. And then Nancy obviously is the victim. And you were, as a child, bowing down to her while she rode by on floats in Stoneham, Massachusetts. And she has 3 kids. She made it out of this. I think Tonya has a child named Gordon at this point. She is going on to appear. I think it's also a tricky thing, and this is going to be a theme as we do this show. People trying to hang on to fame. And that's what Tonya clearly has done her entire life. She's gone on all these bullshit celebrity cooking disaster shows, and she's tried to box, and she's tried to do surreal life and all this nonsense.
Yeah, she had nothing to fall back on. That's it. She was a skater, and she gave her whole life to it.
If you're also a parent,
yeah,
and you're listening to this, and your child is about to play a sport, have them play a sport that will make you some money back in success. This is just a money pit. This figure skating, gymnastics, all this bullshit, riding horses. You got to be so rich to ride horses, so that probably doesn't matter. But I'm saying put your kid into golf. Put your kid, we did volleyball. That was a gigantic money pit, because there's no money at the end of that. So
better advice, Al, the better advice is raise a well-rounded human. And if they start to excel at something so much that you think they could go pro, Tom Brady played 3 sports in high school. All pro athletes say this. Any sport other than the sport you play contributes to making you a better athlete at that sport. Don't yawn in the middle of my statements, Al. I get it. You're shooting a TV show during the day. You have rehearsals. I got it. What I'm saying is raise a well-rounded kid.
All right. Thank you very much for listening to. That is a great point, Jay. We all should raise well-rounded children who do not become involved in
attacks on their competitors.
Phone number is 925-727-3878. That is 925-727-DUST. You can also write us at thedustuppod@gmail.com. You can find Jay Larson at Jay Larson on Instagram.
Jay Larson Comedy.
Jay Larson Comedy and Jay Larson Comedy. You could just Google Jay Larson Comedian.
Just Google.
On Instagram is the Dust Up Podcast. On Twitter, it's at the Dust Up Pod. And then TikTok is the Dust Up, and YouTube is the Dust Up. Al Madrigal on most things.
Don't forget to check out Al at barroomstrangler.com.
Yep. Right. Thanks, everybody. Here's the Flat Trackers. Taking us out.
Thanks, guys.